So I know that a lot of you guys are coming from different states and this is going to be your first time living here in Florida, and you might have concerns about being in a flood zone. So today I'm going to show you a quick way that you can check any house that you see listed and to see if that's actually in a flood zone or not. I'm also going to give you a way to check the evacuation levels or zones as well. So real quick, I'll just go over the flood zones here in Florida. Basically, you have three categories. You've got AE, VE, and Zone X. So AE does carry some risk of getting flooded. Then you have VE. VE is the most risk. It's the highest level of risk, and also tends to be the highest level of insurance costs in that area. And then you have Zone X, which it has very little chance, maybe like a 99% chance in a 100-year floodplain. So most of Parrish is in an X zone, which is good. However, if you're buying near the rivers or the creeks, you know, that's when you kind of get into the AE zones. Now, after Hurricane Debbie, I know a lot of people did get affected in an X zone, so a lot of people did end up buying flood policies. A flood policy in an X zone, according to like a local agent I asked, he said that in an X zone it will probably run you around $500 up to $1,000 for an X zone. If you're in an AE zone, you're looking more at like $700 to like $2,500. It really just depends on the house and the elevations. Now, if you do buy a house in a flood zone, you need to know that the flood policies are assumable. So if the seller has a flood policy, you as the buyer can assume that policy. And it's a good thing because typically the cost of that policy is going to be less if you assume the seller's policy versus having to get a brand new policy, which would tend to be a little bit more expensive. So if you go in an AE zone, definitely check to see if that seller has a policy and see if that's something you want to assume. Alright, so now I'm just going to show you guys how to look up the flood zone here in Manatee County. Alright, so what you're going to do is go to Google and then you're going to type in Manatee County Resident Tool, and once you do that it should come up. You'll click on it and then there'll be a spot to put the address of the house that you want to search. Mine actually had an east and west, so you'll see here that two are going to pop up. And click on it, and then once you do that, there's a ton of information about that house. If you go up a little bit more, you can see the map and where the parcel is. You can zoom in and out, but if you scroll down to the second section there, you'll be able to see the flood zone. So that's just a super easy way to figure out your flood zone here at Manatee County. Alright, so now let's talk about evacuation zones. So remember that flood zones are marked for the risk of flooding year-round, where evacuation zones are only relevant during like a hurricane or a major storm. So here in Manatee County, we have evacuation levels, and they start from A and go to E, and level A is going to be the first one to go. A lot of Parrish is not in an evacuation zone, and you'll see that once I pull up the map, so that's actually a pretty good thing. Okay, to find the evacuation levels, you'll go to the website mymanatee.org, and then in that top search bar there, you can just type in evacuation levels, and then you're going to hit enter. You'll click the very first link. This is going to pull up a GIS map of the county. It takes a little bit of time to populate, but once it does, in that top left hand corner over there, you can type in the address. I'm going to use the same address as I did in the other one. And you'll type it in, you'll click on it, and it's going to zoom in on that particular parcel.
I always click those 3 little dots and add to marker, so if I zoom out, I can see where the parcel is. But you can see that it does give you the evacuation zone, which is NA, because this one is not in an evacuation zone. It also gives you the flood level. So if I scroll out, you can see a little bit more of where I am on the map. I scrolled a little too far. So I'm going to zoom back in a little, but you can see all above that, that's that white area, all that is in a not evacuation zone. So you can see most of Parrish is not an evacuation zone. Now you can click all over this map and see the other parcels. So if I clicked on this one, you can see it's evacuation zone and it's flood zone. Now sometimes when you do that, they have 2 flood zones, and it could be because the flood line crosses through the house or part of that parcel. This map doesn't give us those flood lines, so you'd actually have to go to like the FEMA map and see why. But if it does cross in 2 zones, like an X and an AE over the house, you're gonna have to take the worst of the 2, which you would take an AE. So this is just a really useful map for you to use.
Alright guys, I hope that helps you. If you ever have some time, go on that website, mymanatee.org, and kind of just look through it. It really has a ton of information on it. If you guys have questions about Parrish, the developments, insurance, or anything, give us a call. It's Amy and Tom at Keys to the Coast Real Estate. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!